Social media is constantly changing, and I know it can be hard to keep up. As a professional social media marketer, it is my job to keep on top of those changes so that I can support businesses like yours. Over time, I've noticed the same questions crop up time and time again through my membership and through things I'm asked on my own social media. So this episode today is dedicated to putting all of the answers in one place for you, answering the things that you've always wanted to know about social media but are too afraid to ask because they seem too basic. Well, my members have been asking me these questions and I've put them together for you to listen to. So if you want to know the answers to the most common questions I get asked, please keep listening. Before we dive in, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to tune in to Show Up and Be Heard. The podcast exists to help women like you simplify your business and your life so that you can stop feeling so overwhelmed. I'm your host, Becci McAvoy, owner and founder of Be Heard Socials, and I am an award-winning social media marketer and an international speaker who specialises in content strategy and organic growth on social media. If you want to cut through the noise and BS and get practical, actionable advice tailored specifically to make social media marketing accessible and easy to understand, or if you want to be part of a supportive community where women entrepreneurs can feel connected and inspired to achieve their dreams, then keep listening because you are in the right place. To be the first to find out when new episodes go live and to get more tips like the ones you hear in this podcast, make sure you join my email community through the link in the show notes. Right then, let's get started with this week's episode. I honestly get asked so many questions in my membership, which is brilliant because I absolutely love it. And quite often my members will come to me and say, this is a really stupid question, but there are no stupid questions. If you don't know the answer to it, you don't know what you don't know. And it's one of the things I really love about the membership actually is they can come and ask me anything. And I can go from asking a very, very basic question, which I love because it takes very little of my brain power or my energy, to a really complicated question about strategy that we have to dig a bit deeper into. But what I've done for today's episode is gone through the most commonly asked questions. Lots of them I'm going to say are quite basic, but like I said, I want to caveat that with it's not basic because if you don't know the answer, you don't know the answer. So I've put them all in one place for you so that you can just come here and listen in and hopefully get the answers to everything you want to know about social media, but you're too afraid to ask. So the first question, which platform should I be on? Right? I get asked this a lot. The simple answer is that you should be on the platform that your customers are on. This all comes down to knowing and understanding your ideal customer or your client. I can't answer this for you without asking you lots of questions back. And as you know, if you're a regular listener, if I get asked a question in real life by somebody that I'm working with, I tend to ask several questions back to give a bespoke answer. So like I said, it comes down to knowing and understanding your ideal customer or client. So for example, a travel company would probably be best to focus on Instagram or Pinterest and TikTok, as these platforms are the platforms that travelers go to for inspiration. But if you're a different business, for example, a local builder, or even I was going to say local hairdresser, but actually that works with Instagram as well. So that's a different thing. Let's go with local builder would be better focusing on Facebook, where they can be quickly tagged in local groups when someone is asking for recommendations. And that's why I've come away from hairdresser actually, because, I'm contradicting myself already. Instagram is also a great platform for those businesses, for example, to show the visuals. So especially for a hairdresser to show, how good they are at what they do, but equally a local builder. But a platform like Facebook is fantastic for those businesses because when questions are asked in local groups and someone is asking for recommendations, they can tag you straight in there. So the simple answer is that you should be on the platform that your customers are on. So have a think about where they hang out and what the functions and features of those platforms are. So like I said, with Facebook, that's groups and things like that, but equally you can be tagged in comments on Instagram, but have a think about things like that, where your ideal customers and clients are hanging out, and that's kind of the answer to which platform you should be on. However, I want to throw a little bit of a spanner in the works, because another thing I also say is you need to be on a platform that you enjoy. If you hate the platform, you are unlikely to regularly show up on it. So for example, I know that I need to be on LinkedIn more, and I am working towards it. I'm a work in progress. I just don't like the platform for a lot of reasons. I don't like the platform, so I spend less time on it. I do things on there, like I cross post across to LinkedIn, and I will do reactive engagement on there. So I will answer questions and comments and things that come on my post, but I do very little proactive engagement on there at the moment. This is something I'm working on. And I, as these episodes go on, I can talk to you about how I progress with that. But because I don't enjoy being on there, it can quickly make me resent it. And I don't want to feel like I resent it. So that is another thing to take into consideration. If there's a platform you love, even if it's not necessarily your ideal platform, but you're just starting out and you want to get used to social media, you want to get consistent on there, you want to, just get started, and then make sure it is on a platform that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you will fail before you even start. So that leads me on very nicely to the next question that I get asked very regularly. Do I need to be on every platform? And I could answer this very quickly and move on to the next question by just saying, no, you don't. And I'm done. There was a time when most businesses had a presence on every platform, but this really isn't necessary anymore. It is better to take a strategic approach and focus your efforts on one or two platforms rather than spreading yourself too thin and having your fingers in all the pies. Now, I will caveat this by saying I am on almost every platform. I'm not on TikTok, but I'm on almost every platform. I'm not active on them all. So I am creating content. So I do, like I've just said about LinkedIn, I do cross post across to there. And there's ways that you can cross post where you can actually create the content specifically for each platform. However, for me, as a social media marketer, maybe I shouldn't admit this on here, but I don't do that on Facebook or LinkedIn, for example. I don't change the size of my images. I just put it out there so that people can see it. I zone in my attention to Instagram because I love it. I know lots of my customers are there. However, I do know, and this is, I guess, a bit of tough love for myself and for you at this point. I can do Instagram with my eyes closed now. I've been doing it for a long time. I've got all the habits, all the strategic stuff set up. So what I quite like to do is, and I learned this from a masterclass I went to once, run by Dan Knowlton of the Knowlton Brothers and Knowlton Marketing Agency. And he said that what they do at Knowlton is they put 80% of their effort into the thing that they can do really, really well. And they put 20% of their effort into trying new things. So that is something I've sort of been doing over the last year or so, maybe year and a half. But I'm probably not putting in 20% right now. But that's the way that you can approach it. You can put 100% of your effort to get really, really good on one platform, the platform that your customers are on and the platform that you enjoy, or a balance between the two of those. And then when you've got that nailed, move down to 80% of your sort of time and effort and 20% into getting yourself onto another platform that might benefit you. But just remember, you do not need to be on every platform. And if you're not active on that platform, but your account is present there, make sure that you put that into the bio or the post. Go back to the earlier episode that I did just a couple of weeks ago around consistency. I'll put the link in the show notes, and just tell people that you're not active there. So if they go and find you there, they know where to find you. So yeah, the very short answer is no, but that gives you a little bit more context around it. Okay, the next question. I was going to say it's a little bit controversial. I don't know if it's controversial, or I don't know if it's a bit of a soapbox issue of mine. Why doesn't anyone see my posts? Now, this is really the $1 million question, and there are a million reasons your content might not be getting great reach. So I'm going to give you a few possible reasons, and I'm going to have to be generic in that because, like I said earlier, and I say hundreds of times, if you asked me this, I would ask you probably more than 10 questions back. I'd ask you a lot of questions back to try and dig down into the answer. So I'm just going to give you some generic possible reasons that people might not be seeing your posts. The first one, and this is why it might be a bit controversial, but it might be your content. Your content isn't great. I'm sorry, I'm not sorry. I think sometimes we do need to take a hard look at ourselves and be critical about our own content and have a look at that. And it might be people aren't engaging with your posts because it's not that great. So just have a think about that and be open to how you might be able to improve your posts. in the future, and how you might be able to make it a bit better, how you might be able to make it a bit more relevant. Again, I'll include a link in the show notes to the episode that we've done on how to write better social media captions, because that can help you. And I talk in there about call to actions, which are really important. It's also remembering things like, if it's a selling post, people might have seen it, they might just not have visibly engaged with it. So it doesn't mean that you can go into your insights and see how many people it's actually reached. It just might be that they're not engaging with it. It doesn't mean they haven't seen it, they haven't screenshotted it, they haven't sent it to a friend in DMs, which or into what, like they copied the link and sent it into WhatsApp, which Adam Mosseri has come out recently and said that's one of the most popular ways for people to share things now. But actually, for example, if it's a sales post, and I've moved on a little bit, it might not be that that sales post isn't great. It just might be that the purpose of that post isn't to get people to engage with it. So you think they haven't seen it, but actually they have. They just haven't engaged with it because it's not been that type of post. But yeah, do tough love, have a look at your content, and ask yourself whether you would engage with it. It might also be because you're not engaging with your followers. It's remembering that engagement is a two-way thing. So this is going to be an episode later in the season where I speak specifically about engagement. So if you do want to know, if you're not engaging at the moment and you want to know more about what engagement actually means and how to do it, please do follow, subscribe, or join my to the podcast, or join my email list so that you can find out when that episode comes out. But if you're not engaging with your followers, you can't necessarily expect that engagement back. And like I said, it might be that it isn't that they haven't seen it, but they're not engaging with it. Or it might be that because your engagement levels aren't that high, that it's not being pushed to people and they're not seeing that content. It could also be because you don't post consistently. And if you don't post consistently, the algorithm can't respond to or see or get regular positive messages about who wants to see your content. So the more consistently you post, the more people will engage with it and like it and comment on it or stop and read it. And the more the algorithm is told that people like that content, and it will push it further up their feed. It might be that the platform you're using is prioritizing a different type of content. You never know what platforms are doing at any one point, but don't let that put you off. It doesn't mean you have to create that content. You might want to go back to that 80-20 rule about spending 20% of your time on videos, for example, if you think that's what that platform is pushing, but you're mostly creating static posts. It doesn't mean you then have to create videos for everything you do. Still post consistently, spend 80% of your time doing the stuff that you're good at, the stuff that you know you can do, and 20% of your time on videos, maybe, for example. It could be the time of year. For example, summer is often slower. I am currently recording this episode during the summer holidays. It's the end of July and engagement has fallen off a cliff. So yeah, just remember and start to notice trends in your engagement. If you track it and look each month at what your engagement's been, you can start to notice trends in it and know when it's likely to be quieter. And that doesn't mean stop posting completely. There's strategic ways that you can approach that. Or it might be that you're not using relevant hashtags or keywords. So these will help you get shown up in places like the Explore feed. So you want to have a think about that as well. Hashtags are a funny one, which should probably be an entire episode by itself. However, one of the things that Instagram does with hashtags is scan them on your post to see what your post is about. And they have come out themselves and said it should be included in your caption, not in your comments. You should only be putting relevant hashtags in there. If you're whacking a load of hashtags in there just to be seen, but they're not relevant to what you have said, then Instagram might see it as spammy and might deprioritize your content. So you need to make sure your hashtags are relevant. Hashtags absolutely have a place, but you do need to get them right. And it's almost better sometimes not to include them if they're completely irrelevant. But include them if you can, because they can be very helpful. The other thing is keywords. So the Instagram search bar will respond to keywords as it will on other platforms as well. And it will, the algorithm and Instagram checking it will respond to keywords as well and help you be shown up in the Explore feed as well. So it might be that you're not using relevant hashtags and you're just dumping them all in for no reason at all. Okay, next question, which we've kind of covered a little bit, but how do I get people to comment on my posts? The key to getting lots of comments on your posts is to create content that people feel compelled to respond to. And again, it's thinking about the kind of posts that you'd respond to. So how do you do that? Well, think about the kind of post you respond to and what makes you respond. But also, one of the easiest ways is to ask a question. For a quick win, avoid open-ended questions that involve too much thought. Instead, ask specific questions which don't require too much time or brain power. So, for example, here are a few ideas. People love to talk about themselves, including me, and I'm guessing including probably you. So ask them to share memories. For example, going back to the travel business, they might ask, what's your favorite beach holiday destination? Or a pet business might ask, how did you choose your dog's name? But ask really simple questions that takes no brain power to think about and lets people talk about themselves and share things that make them happy, because people love that and they're more likely to respond to that. You could also try this or that questions relevant to your business. For example, a clothes shop might post, our new autumn range is out now. Which do you prefer, the red scarf or the orange one? Or they could ask, who loves dressing for autumn, for example. Really quick questions. That's not a this or that question, so that's a bit different, but quick questions that people don't have to think about and they can answer about something that they love. You could also ask what people need help with. So, for example, as a social media marketer, I might ask, what do you struggle with most when it comes to creating content? And then use that to create future podcast episodes. But this is a really good example of ways that people might not want to comment. And this is what I mean about thinking about why people want to comment. We are definitely entering, if not have fully entered, a way more private era of social media. So it might be people want to show off about themselves, like I said earlier, but they don't want to necessarily share their vulnerabilities as much as people used to on social media, and people did used to do it a lot, and it doesn't happen so much anymore. So thinking about, if you're asking a question, for example, what do you need help with? Maybe you don't want them to comment. Maybe you want to encourage them to DM you. So I know this question is about how to get people to comment more, but think, if you are asking quite a vulnerable question, just think people might not want to answer it. So think about how they then can answer it, whether it's as a question box in your stories on Instagram or encouraging them to DM you instead. And think about what that call to action should be. So yeah, there's just a few ways of getting people to comment on your post more. Remembering people aren't mind readers. So if you want them to comment, ask them to comment, ask them a question and say, let me know in the comments. But also remembering that people might not want to comment, and then thinking about maybe how your call to action should change. And remembering, just because a post doesn't have comments on it doesn't mean people haven't engaged with it. Okay, so the next question, how much time should I spend on social media every day? Well, this is entirely up to you. And again, I would ask a lot of questions back if you asked me this one-on-one. And I'm also a firm believer that your main goal as a business should be to spend as little time as possible on social media, because you have many other things that you should be doing. But it's a good idea to spend at least 15 minutes a day on your business platforms. Be purposeful with your time and use it wisely. Answer DMs, respond to comments, and follow relevant hashtags for inspiration. You might not want to, I don't know how well following hashtags work, but I still do that because I see content pop up that I might want to engage with. But it's basically about being purposeful, and it's about being purposeful with your proactive engagement as well, which, like I said, there will be an episode on at a later point. So please do listen in for that if it's something you need help with. But the main thing you need to remember is don't waste your time endlessly scrolling and comparing yourself to others. I have a free download, my top 5 tips to spend less time on your socials and still have a consistent presence that engages your customers. So I will put that in the show notes too. It's free to download and it will really, really help you with this. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes. But just remember, it doesn't need to be more than 15 minutes, despite what some of the noisy experts will tell you. And I say experts lightly. You can do it in 15 minutes a day. I do it in 15 minutes a day. And I'm not going to talk on and on about this now because we'll be here all day, but do tune into the episode that's coming about engagement if you want to know more about how I do this and ways that you can be strategic and efficient with this. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question. What should I post on social media? Right, so I have the Boss Framework, which I will link to the episode in the show notes that explains all about the boss framework and ways to approach your content, and the types of posts that you should do. But in terms of actually the specific posts that you should do, it will depend on the type of business you run and the type of content your customers want to see from you. But remember, the most important thing is to create content that inspires your customers to do the thing that you want them to do. So do the thing that the call to action is asking them to do. If you need more help with this, Boss Your Socials Club, that's exactly what it's there for. I will put a link to Boss Your Socials Club into the show notes, and please do come and check it out, and please feel very free to ask me any questions on it. But the Boss framework, which you can listen to as an episode, will really help you with sort of how to approach what you should post on social media. So I don't want to go on about it here, because you can go on and listen to a whole episode about that. Right. Let me think of the next question. Which one shall I go to next? Okay, so is it too late to get started on social media? Because sometimes I see businesses go, oh, I've had a business for ages, but I'm just not on social media, I don't want to, or they've resisted it, or whatever it might be. Well, I'm here to tell you it is never too late to get started, and it's never too late to get consistent. In fact, if you're new to social, it's a great opportunity to get things right from the start. I can help you with this in Boss Your Socials Club, or through some of my one-to-one services if you want to, or come across and connect with me on Instagram and drop me a DM. I provide loads of content on how you can get started. But just really, the reason I wanted to include this question is because it's never too late to get started. And I generally get asked this by people thinking about joining Boss Your Socials Club, which is why I wanted to put it in here, because I'm not saying that you need to join Boss Your Socials Club by any means, but do not think it's too late to get started, because it absolutely isn't. Okay, final question. Do I really need to make videos? Just because I get asked this a lot. And I just kind of, I guess, want to give you permission that you don't have to do anything you don't want to do on social media, but there's no escaping the fact that video is a huge trend on certain platforms right now. So it has become a really popular form of content on Instagram since the introduction of Reels. Instagram has scaled back on it a little bit, and actually other forms of content are starting to do really well. But obviously platforms like TikTok and YouTube, video is their bread and butter. So if your audience is there and you want to try it, again, like I said earlier, try it, but you don't have to do anything you don't want to do. And you certainly don't need to jump around dancing and doing things that make you feel uncomfortable. Video is more time consuming. And I'm guessing if you are asking this question, then you don't love the idea of being on camera. So the really good news is that there are lots of ways to create brilliant videos without showing your face. I can help you do that. And I can also help you with some of the confidence of just overcoming the fear of showing your face on video and showing and creating those videos. However, you don't have to do it. And like I said, if you are asking the question, do I really need to create videos? Then you're probably not going to be that big a fan of it. So even if you want to give it a go, start in small steps, just create one a month and see how it goes, and then start to build it up, because you will either learn that you really do hate it, or actually it's not that bad and you're happy to give it a go. So yeah, those are the questions that I've included for today. I could have included absolutely hundreds of questions. And I'd love to know if you do have any other questions about social media that you have been too afraid to ask. Please connect with me and ask me, because I can create future podcast episodes about it. I can create content about it, and I can really help you. But I suppose the very last thing I want to say is that no question is a stupid question, and you don't know what you don't know. So it can be a very, very simple thing. So please do come across and ask me, because honestly, I feel like it's what really lights me up. I love helping people overcome some of the problems that they have, but also just showing them how simple some things can actually be. And in some of the cases, like you've heard in the questions today, giving them permission that they don't have to do something that the noisy people out there are telling them that they have to do. So yeah, I really hope you enjoyed that. I hope you learned something from it. And please do drop me a DM if anything particularly stood out to you. Thank you so much for listening to Show Up and Be Heard, but please don't go without telling me your name. I genuinely love meeting new people and making new connections. So if you don't already, I'd love it if you'd come find me on Instagram, LinkedIn or Facebook and drop me a message to say hello and let me know what you thought of the episode. The link to all my socials are in the show notes. And of course, if you enjoyed this episode or found it useful, then I'd really appreciate it if you could take just a few minutes to give it a review on whatever platform you are listening on, because every one I get really does make me do a little squeal and a big happy dance. Finally, more than anything else, please always remember, realising that you're not actually meant to do this stuff alone is the first step to making it easier. So I'll see you next time.